Hello, my name is Melinda Rackley, and I am going to be talking to you today about wellness. The title of this presentation is Wake Up, Workout, Repeat. And I'm just going to be giving 3 keys to achieving and maintaining wellness in every area of life. It is possible to live well at work, at home, really any area in your life, we can achieve wellness. And that's what we're going to dive into today. So I'm just going to get started here. Wellness is a journey that we all have to make the choice to take. And this journey for me started 9 years ago. It was a doctor who asked me a question: do you want to be well? And from that one question, I've been able to make these changes and choices in my life. But in order to do that, I realized that I had to identify my traumas, my triggers, and make the choice to wake up from them, work out those fears, and repeat the healthy behaviors so that I could indeed live well. So, again, as we get started here, I want to read this quote that I absolutely love, and it's by Jay Stanford, and it says, "Health is a state of body, and wellness is a state of being." And I want you to pause right here and ask yourself, who am I being? And who do I want to be? Do I want to be well? When we think about wellness, it's so important that we look at the wellness wheel. In my life, this is how I gauge how healthy I am. There's social and occupational wellness. So that's when we are at work, or even when we have our social circles. Financial wellness, which is so important because we all love that cha-ching, okay? Emotional wellness, our ability to handle complex emotions. Physical wellness, our ability to keep our bodies healthy. What are we eating? Are we exercising? Intellectual wellness. Are we continuing in our education and our learning? And last but certainly not least, spiritual wellness, which is just the belief that there is a higher power, whatever you think that is for you. And when I live my life, I try to have a baseline in all of these areas. If you don't know what your baseline is, now would be a perfect time for you to just stop and ask yourself, what do you want your physical wellness to look like? What do you want your emotional wellness to look like? And have a baseline so that you can do the work that we're going to continue to talk about today here. So once I was introduced to the wellness wheel, about 9 years ago, I had to do the hard work of creating a baseline. 9 years ago, I graduated from the number one HBCU in the nation, Florida A&M University. Any Rattlers out there? So, after graduating, I was contributing to society, and I thought that I was financially well because I was in a career job doing really good. Emotionally, I had gone to counseling in school, and my degree is in social work. So I really thought that I really had it together in every area of the wellness wheel. And then I got pregnant, right? It's not uncommon. But before I got pregnant, I was in a really good place in my life, right? My mental health, I felt, was stable. And mental health, as we see it here on the screen, is defined as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make contributions in his or her community. So as you see at the bottom, I was singing. I love to be on stages. So I would sing on the weekends, and then I would go and, help a restorative justice diversion program. And then I taught Zumba class, and then I taught the childbirth education class. And my thinking was I was fine. My mental health at that point was stable because, y'all, I was contributing to society like a mug, okay? So in my mind, my mental health was stable, but there were underlying triggers. There was traumas. There were things that were not resolved. So while I was a good employee, I was not the best employee, and I worked in a nonprofit organization. And, there were times where emotionally I just could not cope with the stressors just because I had those triggers and traumas that I had not resolved. But all the while I had on the face that said, I know what I am doing. And trauma is a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. So I want to put a pin here. As I traveled, throughout my first year from graduating college, during the pregnancy, I had traumas and, some things happened. And when I went to deliver my daughter, August 5th, 2012, during the C-section delivery, I had 2 strokes. So the first headache that I experienced in the operating room, it was just such a throbbing. It was as if my brain was trying to escape my skull. Y'all, I will never forget this headache. And then about 2 seconds later, it came back just as strong, just as intense. And it took them 16 hours to realize that the first headache was a clot. It was in the vessel in the right side of my brain. And the second headache, the vessel burst, right? There are 2 types of stroke you can have in your life, an ischemic and a hemorrhagic. And in one day, in 2 minutes, I had both types. And this was a wake-up call for me. I realize now that the body keeps score and the body will always win. When we don't take time to address our traumas and our triggers and our mental health in a way that is productive, then our body is going to keep that score. And sometimes we just don't know when it is going to come, flip off, and we're going to have this thing that we didn't expect to happen. And for me, it was a stroke at the young age of 23 during childbirth, one of the days that's supposed to be the happiest of your life. And that was deeply disturbing for me, as you can imagine. And so that triggered a response in my life. And I remembered every time I did not stop to take care of my body. Every time I went to work knowing that I needed to take a self-care day. Every time I put the needs of my employer or the needs of a friend or the needs of someone outside of what I needed. And a part of being well is being able to identify what you need. So this is where the wake-up call happened. I had to identify what I needed. And identifying what I needed meant that I had to learn myself in a new way and unlearn some of the unhealthy behaviors that I had developed, which was working through lunch. How many of us are so guilty of sitting through lunch or working at our desk instead of taking the time that you need for yourself, taking that moment to regroup and just take a breath, right? So, for me, I had to wake up and work out that I wanted to live healthy. I wanted to be well. And I became a spokesperson for the American Heart and Stroke Association. And I talk about this stroke story so often, but the part that I am most happy about is the ability that we all have and the ability that I locked into to recreate. And that's what we call neuroplasticity. Right. So I used to want to be a neurologist, right? But I realized I am not cut out for that. So neuroplasticity is a term that refers to the brain's ability to change and adapt as a result of experience. So when I first had the stroke, I couldn't use my entire left side. I could not walk. I could not lift my hand. I couldn't use this hand. There was so much that I could not do. But I made a choice. There was that doctor that I talk about at the beginning. The doctor asked me, he said, do you want to be well? I'll never forget it. He said, my job, I can't immediately make you well. There is no medication I can give you right now that's going to make you get up and start walking. You have to make the choice, because I was depressed, y'all. And I had to make that choice that I wanted to be well. The moment I made that choice, I feel like something went off in my mind, right? And in neuroplasticity, the healthy parts of your brain will start to take over and you can recreate those pathways. I mention this because when we think about the wellness wheel, again, it is never too late or too early to decide you want to be well. And when you decide that, then you have to go to work, do what's necessary to live well. And so for me, it was learning to walk again. And here on the screen, this is the first time that I tried to walk. And there were 3 people in that room. And because I was so young and this was such a rare case, I became a case study. And so it was someone behind me helping me to shift my hips, someone in front of me picking up my foot, and then someone recording. And there was a device connected to my foot to help me, pick it up and put it down. So it was such a dynamic experience that I will never forget, because I learned in real time that you can recreate, you can train your brain to do the things that you want it to do. And, now I want to kind of transition a little bit to the work required to maintain. So once I decided, yes, I do want to walk. Yes, I do want to live my best life. I had to do the work, right? And this is where neuroplasticity comes into play again. It's an ongoing process, right? Our brain is a phenomenally designed, instrument. And it will work if we work it. So as you see here on the screen, this was 1 week after I made that choice. I do want to be well. So I no longer needed 3 people in the room to help me walk. I only needed 1, right? Because I made up in my mind, I'm going to do the work to be well. I want to be physically well. I started going to counseling. I started to check every area on that wellness wheel. And it was so important for me to create healthy habits for myself here so that I could go home and take care of my newborn baby, which, by the way, during this process, I could only see her once a week because she was a newborn baby. And I spent 3 weeks in the intensive care unit. And then I went to Brooks Rehab here in Jacksonville, Florida, where I live. And it was a phenomenal experience. I'll never forget, laying in that rehab room bed, looking over at my daughter's picture, saying, I'm going to get well for you. And sometimes if we're not enough for ourselves, we have to have that person in our mind that we love so much that we are willing to do the work to get well for them. And that's where my work started. I will say this has been a 9-year journey, and it has not been easy. It has not at all been easy. There have been days where I wanted to quit and just wanted to give up on life, because recovery is hard work. But once I realized there are certain things I need to do, I had to put them on repeat. I wanted to go home. So we took a baby doll and we wrapped weights around this baby doll. And every day I would wake up, look at that baby doll like it was my daughter. And I decided I'm going to get up, I'm going to walk. And we put that on repeat. So I challenge you to get your own habits, your own routines, and just focus on one area of the wellness wheel. And if you focus on one area, for 1 year, then in a year, you will have significantly improved and created your own wellness habits. There are 3 things that I did to wake up, work out, repeat, and get well. The first thing was fuel. Okay. So what you'll see here on the screen, 6 months after starting rehab, I ran in a 5K, right? That's amazing, because to this day, I still cannot feel the bottom of my left foot. I still cannot wiggle my toes. This hand here, I cannot feel these 2 fingers, but I walk, I wear high heels, and I live a good life because I made the choice to be well. So in rehab, they asked me, what do you want to do? What are some goals? And I said, I wanted to run. Y'all listen, I hate running. Okay. If you see me running, get behind me and you better run too, because something is coming. Okay. I hate running, but I decided that I wanted to be well. So I put these 3 things on repeat. Fuel, right? So physical or emotional wellness is not necessarily about, but the things that we eat do serve as fuel, right? With this in mind, it is recommended, not required, that you evaluate your foods and engage in physical activity on your path to wellness. Understand that your path is not going to look like my path, but we are all in this together. And if you want to be well, it's so important to evaluate what you're fueling your body with. So every morning, I wake up and I make sure that I do my meditation time. I never skip meditation. And then I get started with planning out my day. I plan my day. If it's not on my calendar, it ain't happening. Okay. And then, I go about my day. And there are certain things in place that I have to fuel myself. I have 5 minutes of gratitude written on my calendar every single day. So I'm fueling myself. If a day is going bad, I'm refueling myself with that gratitude. Affirm. Take a moment at the start of your day to create some affirmations. My affirmation today was, I do not push, pull, or tug. Anything that is for me comes to me freely. And I say that so frequently now that I'm able to navigate life and be well. I affirm anything that I need comes to me. I do not push, pull, or tug it, right? And so this is all about keeping that tool in your pocket in case of emergency. How you see that sign, break glass, this is your break the glass in case of emergency. If you're feeling down, break glass with your affirmation, right? And then the last thing, reflect. Review your day at the end of your day. List the good parts, the ugly bits. Talk to yourself, right? If you did good that day, give yourself a pat on the back for showing up today. Stopping, give yourself a pat on the back, right? These 3 things, fuel, affirm, reflect, has helped me to go far. So as you'll see here on the screen in the top, I went from not walking, barely walking, numb foot, to being able to teach spin class, right? That's so amazing. I went from, barely getting around to going to the gym as much as I want, traveling the world. I now have my own business where I help others do the same things that I've learned to do, which is live well. It is not impossible to live well. We just have to make the choice. Do we want to? So the same way I'll ask you again, who do you want to be? How do you want to live your life? What is it that you want to see in your life? It is up to you to create the life you want to live. And if you want to, all you have to do is remember this: fuel, affirm, reflect, far. If you want to go far, it is possible, right? All we have to do is make the choice. And sometimes that's the hardest part. I won't even lie. It took me a while to make the choice to be well. But once I made that choice, my life was never the same. So, my friends, I thank you so much, for joining with me today and talking about wellness. It is possible to be well at work, at home, at school. It's just one choice you have to make. Do you want to be well? And let's partner together to do that. You are not alone in this journey. No matter what you do, you count. Your wellness counts. And the same way that I made that choice, and it has empowered me to be the best mother, to be the best worker, to be the best business owner, to be the best friend, it can empower you too. So make the choice to be well. Simply wake up, work out, repeat, learn what works for you, unlearn what doesn't, and make sure that you keep that on repeat in your life so that you can prosper. Again, my name is Melinda Rackley, and I thank you so much for joining in. Be blessed, be well, and most of all, enjoy the life and time that you have.